Welcome back to A Plus Parents, everyone. And so, we talk about role models, right? So I'm going to say today, our guest today would be role modeling what it's like to be a high school graduate getting ready for college, what that looks like, and the adventures of what we call independent study. So we call it homeschooling, but Fatima Sullivan, who's our guest today, actually has taken a track that's just slightly different where she's been homeschooling at home. She's been doing her schooling, but really she's been part of an independent study program at a charter school in California called Sage Oak Charter School. We actually get the chance to work with Sage Oak Charter School, and that's how I get to meet Fatima as well. She started taking math courses with us. So if you happen to be in the California area and you want to find out more about charter schools and how they work, where you can do your independent studies from home, it's an awesome opportunity. And so check it out in California. If you're outside of California, they don't necessarily have those outside of areas outside of California the way that they're structured in California. So keep doing what you're doing. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Fatima, and then I'll have her share a little bit about herself. So, she just graduated high school. She decided, and I love, we talked a little bit about this before we're getting ready to record that she took a gap year this year. And she told me something really interesting. So we'll come back to that about the gap year and what the gap year looked like to get ready for college at the same time that she could still apply for scholarships and all the different things that she's doing. And she's a recipient of a Quest Bridge scholarship. So she's attending, after a gap year, Northwestern University, where she's going to study music. She's a phenomenal musician. And first of all, she's a phenomenal person, but then take on the musician side of things as well. All right. So what did she do when she was at her school at Sage Oak? Well, while she was at Sage Oak and she started there in the 8th grade, that she was able to, she was on their first student council that they ever had. She became the president of the student council. She won the leadership award at graduation. She was the commencement speaker at their graduation. So yes, we got the real deal here, right? She also started a music club at her school. So it's like, oftentimes we talk about how do we get young people working together and socializing? So someone like Fatima got that rolling, which is really, really cool. She also, this was super exciting for me, once she finished her last math class with us, and I knew she was on a gap year, we snatched her right up and had her come work with us as a teacher assistant. So she's been working on all kinds of special projects for us as well. Let's see. She teaches herself piano. She loves spending time with her family. Now, if she's not busy enough already, just think about spending time with her family. There's mom, there's dad, and 6, count them up, 6 younger siblings. The other thing about Fatima and their family is that they have had an opportunity to travel internationally. In fact, Fatima was born outside of the U.S., came to the U.S., and her first 5 years of school, kindergarten plus her next 5 years of school, were actually at a dual language school. So that was both English and Spanish, where she was taking her school from, and then she discovered the world of independent study and started looking at what that looked like to work from home and then still have some interaction with her teachers at the school that she worked with. So let's see. I think I got everything there, Fatima. So first of all, welcome to the podcast. We're going to dive a lot more into all the different things that you have done and what you're up to and where you're headed.
Thank you so much, Mr. D. I'm so happy to
So
be here.
anything
I
else you
do
want
have
to
to
add to
correct
that?
you really. I have to correct you really quick though. I was not the student council president. I did start the music club though. So
Okay, but you were a part of the student
I was
council.
part of it all 4 years.
I got you. Okay,
Out of
right.
that, I founded the music club. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if you were the student council president, you would have been an awesome one. So there we go. Okay. So let's kind of get going here, right? You've got 6 younger siblings, right? And so tell me a little bit about your family, and then is there any? I know one of your sisters is doing one of our math programs as well. So tell me more about your family,
Yeah.
what it's
So
like, and then
I'm the
because you're
firstborn.
doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the firstborn, and I have 6 younger siblings, like you said, 5 sisters, 1 brother who's right in the middle, so he's sandwiched, nice and even. But my brother Michael is actually in your pre-algebra right now through Sage Oak, and then next Nina is in geometry, and Petra is in algebra 2. So, and I just graduated. So, at one point there were I think 4 of us, but yeah,
Wow.
we're Mr. D fan.
That's
Mr. D
so
fan.
great. That's right. So Petra, I know, right? So
Yes,
that's awesome.
yes.
So I might even see her next year, which is great.
Yeah, for
So
sure,
that's super
for
cool.
sure.
Awesome. All right. So when you say, spending time with your family, 6 younger siblings, right? There's that boy right in the middle, which is kind of funny. So what's it like, being the oldest with 6 younger siblings? What's that like for you? And how do you spend time with them? Like what's some things you guys do together?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Well, growing up, we'd always do like family movie nights and things. But now that we're all getting older, then we kind of have different, like, I'll hang out with my they're not older than me, but the older group of sisters will hang out and we'll do stuff. And then I also play with my little sisters who they're still at like the age of playing Barbies and playing baby dolls and things like that. So I feel like one of the family activities we do is board games because there are certain games that like all of us can play. But then also sometimes like Michael and I will like just go for a walk and he'll skateboard and so it's just fun. It's
Nice.
everybody has their own interests, but yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Okay.
it's
Wait,
exciting.
is there
Yeah,
a board
it
game you
keeps
can
you
play
on your
with?
toes.
How
Yeah.
do you play a board game with 9 people? Is like mom and
Um,
dad play it too?
yeah, we actually just played one yesterday. And it was kind of funny because it's kind of out of the vault. So we found it in the closet one day. It hadn't even been opened. It was Trivia Adventure from like 1985. And so we kind of all had fun. A lot of the trivia is like none of us kids even know anything because it's like from the 80s, but our parents are kind of so leading the game a little bit. But things like that, or any of us can just like be on a team, even if the little kids maybe might not. Um, Everybody participates in one way or another.
Right.
Apples to Apples is another good one that we all. That's not a board game per se, but
Okay. Oh, that sounds really fun. That's funny. So 1985. So
yeah.
I got my undergraduate degree in college, my first degree in 1984. Isn't that
Oh my
crazy, right?
goodness.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's so funny to just think
You'd
back.
probably
Yeah.
be good
So
at it.
I would
Yeah.
do good. I'd be good there. I kind of know what's going on. So
Yeah, it
oh,
was
that's
all these
funny.
TV shows like 8 is Enough and like, shows that we don't
Right. Yeah, you're going like, "Huh?" Right?
I
I
know.
know when I'm at conventions now, and I just came back from a convention, so I always put music on before I do a talk when I'm speaking, right? And I always have to ask people, "Okay, anybody can name what band is this?" Right? And some of the parents do, even some of the parents can't do it because they're younger too, right? Oh man, there's no older people like me, right? So because I always put on those old 70s, early 80s, rock music,
Yeah.
right? They're like,
Yeah.
we don't know that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, well, that's all right. Okay, so uh, let's start kind of like as you as you were going through high school. Actually, before we do that, tell me a little bit about you were sharing with me kind of the journey that you took and how you came to California.
Yeah.
You weren't born in California. Tell
Right.
me about the bilingual school and kind of like what led you to Sage Oak because I think that's such a great story for people to hear.
Yeah. So my parents had kind of learned Spanish living out of the country, and so they learned kind of by immersion in Mexico. And I did go to kindergarten there, and then we moved to California. And they really wanted me to have that bilingualism, and because they had discovered that it was like such a treasure to have, especially nowadays. And there happened to be a bilingual school nearby where we were in California. So I went there kindergarten through fifth grade and, then in 6th grade was when I started kind of my independent study journey. So I started homeschooling through the districts here in California. And I don't know if this option exists like in other states or anything, but at least in the district where I was, I could homeschool. Well, yeah, it was like a homeschool program through the public schools. So I took certain online classes and textbook classes at home. And then I also was able to go for 2 elective classes to the local public middle school. So that way I got to keep up my violin playing at the time. And actually that's when I switched to playing the viola, funny enough. So in
Uh-huh.
public school, I started violin in 4th grade and then I played 4th and 5th grade. In 6th grade, I got to go to orchestra and Spanish class at the local public middle school. And that's during one of the orchestra classes, the director was like, "Hey, any violinists want to switch to viola?" Which is basically like a bigger violin with a lower tone, and not many people played it, and we had like a ton of violins. So I was like, I'll try something new, and ended up loving it. So I still play the viola to this day. That's what I got a scholarship for, actually. So pretty crazy.
That was a good
Yeah,
move.
that was my first step into homeschooling, and then we moved cities, and kind of decided to look for another option. And my parents really researched a lot of charter schools, like Mr. D was saying, are a big thing here in Southern California that we hadn't heard about before. So we were looking into it, and we found Sage Oak Charter School, and really connected with their value for student driven, student led learning. And being able to kind of cater my learning to my learning style and my interests, and being able to do like some project based things. And so I started with stage oak in 8th grade and went all the way through high school, and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But and you found us when you started taking geometry.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
yeah, it's
found
kind of,
Mr. D in freshman
yeah.
year.
So how, that's interesting too, because a lot of times, so just coming back from a convention, right? And and I'm talking to lots of parents, and we're seeing young people, and there's so many different curriculums out there where people can decide for doing things at home, whether it's on their own and they're doing their own thing. So even through Sage Oak, I know as us being a vendor, and I actually met the principal, Mrs. King. I met
Oh,
her.
awesome.
I want to say it was probably 10 years ago, right? So it's
Oh,
been, it's kind of been that long that we've known each other and been doing things together. But how did it work that because you can really look to see what curriculum you want to use and what works for you. So how did you decide on our program, not even
yeah.
knowing what it was going to be like
Yeah,
until
I know. Yeah, yeah. So, well, let's just say 8th grade was my first year with Sage Oak, so we kind of just we're still discovering. I mean, there were so many options. So I think I did a textbook math. I think it was Algebra 1. I worked on that. Um, and so that was kind of just me and my mom like working through a textbook of Algebra 1, and she was kind of like, okay, like I don't know if I'm capable. Like she's like, I love math, but I think you need an actual like math teacher for high school. So yeah, the charter school has things called vendors, which are people like Mr. D who offer their curriculum or services through the charter school. And so we started researching. I was going to be taking geometry in freshman year, and we researched and we came upon Mr. D. And we really, as a family, just really connected with your kind of value and philosophy of learning, of like that student guided kind of curriculum that you have, which is how we correct our own mistakes, and like kind of that process of like discovery and learning by making mistakes, learning through experience with math, and just that philosophy. Um, I think, yeah, it was like on your website, just the philosophy or mission statement or something. We just like we're like, whoa, this sounds amazing. So we
nice.
like, let's give it a try, and then ended up being awesome.
Here you are. In fact, for people, if you're listening, right? So Fatima, we had when we launched our calculus course last year, but the year before that, Fatima was in a pilot with us. So we were like, okay, we're testing it, right? There's going to be all kinds of things to look at and mistakes to find, and look and see what's working for you, what's not working for you. So Fatima was part of that test group to kind of check it out. So we're so thankful that you were there to do that. So and,
Yeah,
and with anything, we're always looking at our courses and always at how to improve them as well. So we're still doing that today, but to
yeah,
have you part of that
exactly.
first group, that was super, super cool. So, well,
Yeah.
when you look at that, right, and you graduated from Sage Oak, you did our programs, right? What would you say? And I think you kind of pointed to it, right? If you looked at like for people thinking about, there's so many different math curriculums out there, and just for curriculums in general, right? What would you say is your biggest takeaway from your experience?
Yeah, I would definitely say just that idea of being able to kind of forge your own pathway and not being afraid to, kind of like you said at the beginning, kind of that adventure of independent study. And I like to think of it in a funny way as like being in high school as an independent student. It's almost like you're already like experiencing the college experience, college life, right? Because you're forming your own schedule. You're really just kind of taking the reins, or like taking charge of what you want to be doing. You get to schedule out your day, and schedule out when your assignments are due and everything. And I think just those really handy life skills that I got to put into practice. um, I think that's my biggest takeaway, because you can take that in any job or college education, any pathway you're going to take. You're going to need that kind of self-guided, ambition, and just those tools that it gave me. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah,
No,
it's so
you
rich,
you
so
you put
rich.
it perfectly. And
Yeah.
and what you're pointing to is what we find out from so many people who, whether they're homeschoolers, whether they're charter school students doing an independent study program like you were able to do. But that's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest things they get is you get that independence, and you get that ability to do things on your own and be able to find, find answers to your questions, right? So it's really, really great. So I love that that's what you take away with you, because those are the kinds of skills that you want to take when you head off into your career. And really it does prepare you for college, because you kind of are on your own when you're in college. You've got the professors, but it's a lot of work on your own. And
Yeah.
you have such a super cool adventure in front of you. And it's so funny to hear that you went from being a violin player, right,
Yes.
to just somebody saying, okay, hey, we need somebody to play viola. Who's interested,
No,
right? So
it's something like that, kind of just the adventure. I was like, middle school, I've just started homeschooling. Like, I want to try something new. Like, why not? And it
that's
led me to
so
this whole
great.
journey. And
Yeah. Well, tell us about it. So the viola, and how long have you been playing, and just kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
what
Yeah, so
that's
like I
what's that been
said,
like
yeah,
for
I
you.
started violin in 4th grade. So I always have to count. I'm like, wait, 4th grade, I just graduated. That's about 8 years total, 8 to 9 years total. But for viola, it's been about 7 going on 8 years, playing the viola. And which is basically, like I said, like a bigger violin. You still hold it like upright here.
Right.
So it's not like a cello or a bass, but yeah, it has its own clef that you read too. So violins read treble clef, and cellos and bass read bass clef in the orchestra, but the
Uh-huh.
viola is like somewhere in between. It's called alto clef. So
Really?
yeah, yeah, I
I
don't know if
didn't
you
know
knew that.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so learning piano, I kind of learned. That's when I started learning bass clef a little bit, and so now I can read all three, which is kind of fun.
Wow.
Because in a way, I feel like it's its own. As far as like music theory, I like it because it's kind of like its own form of math in a weird way, right? Like
Right. Absolutely.
building chords and all the different inversions and things you can
Right.
do.